Hello everyone, my name is FlareBlitzed and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. I wonder how the aftermath of that night went on with Hanako and the rest of the gang. The morning rush has given me enough time to stand outside the classroom for a little while without looking too suspicious. I hope that Muta doesn't ask any awkward questions about my not attending school yesterday. I was sick, that much is true. It's just the reasons for it I have to hide. Confident I can get by with a tactical omission of certain truths, I stride into the classroom by doing my best to appear normal. The instant I open the door, take a single step in, I can feel a dozen eyes looking at me. There's no one imagining this, but not even making any attempt to hide it. Hello? My eyes take a quick sweep across the classroom and I spot Hanako. We make eye contact momentarily before she looks down and stares very hard at her desk. Did she spill the beans? Muta may be okay as far as teachers go, but underage drinking on campus is not exactly something that would be taken lightly. I looked to him with some trepidation. Feeling better today? Yeah, thank you. He motioned for me to take my seat, my legs feeling like sticks as they carry me there. This is going to be a long day. How did Hanako slip this out then? As soon as the lunch bell rings, I'm on my way to Hanako's desk to ask her what's going on. Hanako, did you tell? She looks up at me and shakes her head. That's a big relief. Yeah, it's just... Well, hello there, Hi-chan. It's nice to see you again today. Oh, goodness sakes. A grimace and turned towards me, unmistakable voice coming from behind me. That was way too upbeat of a tone to feel comfortable, even for Misha. Misha's happy smile is nothing out of the usual. Shizune's, though, is a very bad sign. The one she wears has become notched into my brain as her "I've got you 7 ways from Sunday" smile. Hi, Shizune, Misha. You look happy to see me. Not feeling well yesterday, Hi-chan? No, I wasn't, but I'm feeling better now at least. That's good to hear, to know, Hi-chan. Why do I get a feeling that Shizune is leading me into a trap? You sound like you're not being completely serious. Oh no, Hi-chan, we're generally pleased that you're all better now. Shizune is positively overflowing with happiness. There's no one reason why she would be like this. Oh no. In fact, we're quite worried about you after all. You, Hanako, and Lily were absent from class on the same day. Yep, she's got us so thoroughly that all I could do is sigh in defeat. I guess you have your own theories about this. Could you just kind of not tell anyone? It's a bit late for that, Hi-chan. I suppose she's right, considering the looks I've got as I enter the class. Still, things only seem to be at the level of vague suspicion rather than outright accusation, so we'll probably be fine. Hanako's face sinks a little further. Such attention is troublesome enough for me, let alone her. Going by Shizune and Misha's reactions, I think they notice this as well. The only reason why we're giving you such a hard time is that you ignored us yesterday morning. Yesterday morning? It takes a while to recollect what happened then, given the haze induced by the generally awful state I was in at the time. Mail! Oh right, the knocking? That was you two? It was, and you left us there for ages after we'd taken all the effort of coming to your dormitory early in the morning. Sorry, I was having a problem with nausea. A problem with nausea? They're not going to buy that. They're not buying them, I can't blame them. Shizune's head drops in resignation before she reaches into her pocket. Something white and yellow can be sticking out a little, and as she pulls it out, it turns to be an envelope with very bright decorations on it. It's a letter from Iwanako. Since she pulls it towards me, I'll dully take it. This is what we were trying so hard to give you, Yucha. You don't check your... I tune at the sound of Misha's voice, my eyes register what's written on the envelope. Iwanako. I stare at the envelope for a moment before suddenly remembering that there are people around me. There's a very strange, somewhat invasive feeling about their expressions. I kind of want to be alone right now. Iwanako? It's nothing. Thank you for bringing me this, you two. I should think so after what we went through to get it to you. I step back and say my goodbyes. Misha theoretically pouts even as I go out the door, but Shizune and Hanako remain very visibly curious about my reaction. I hope they won't interrogate me on this later. The smell of the gardens is, as always, a very pleasant sensation. This is the spot where we helped Shizune put up those booths. Some of the most visible signs of how well funded the school is, aside from its sheer size, are the expanse and condition of the grounds. A good number of students can be seen eating lunch, chatting, and playing on the bright green lawns. Even some of the staff is enjoying the summer here, keeping watch over the students and idly walking along the long concrete paths. I'd never seen a sight like this in my home city. On excursions maybe, but certainly never in the school or anywhere near where I lived. Even the bench I sit on to read is warmer thanks to the summertime sun, remind me of why I haven't worn the school blazer even once yet. Considering this, the sunflowers and splashes of vibrant yellow adorning the paper are quite appropriate for the time, if any of the words written on it were as well. Here I was, thinking I'd managed to get over her, when this troublesome thing shows up. Her handwriting looks vaguely familiar at best, and only now that I see it again, I remember that she used to write in pink pen a lot. She was always very girly, for lack of a better term. But she was also quite fragile. I never knew if I liked this aspect of her or not, though with the arrival of this letter, that question seems to become largely moot. The letter begins with not much more than an update on the state of things going on in her life. My old class had a good start to the school year. Many are anxious about the exams that will be coming up in the future, etc. But it ends on a very personal, if brief note. It feels a bit like she wrote most of the letter just to try and soften the blow from the ending. Now that there's some distance between us, it's also physical, it also feels more final. Somehow I wonder if we will meet again. Perhaps it's best if we don't. Still, if you'd like to correspond with me, by all means write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you are doing. I wish you all the best. Sincere, I want to go. And so that's that. Our relationship is over. Neat, nice, and tidy, with no ambiguity. I haven't held on to any illusions that it could ever begin anew. The last time she visited me, neither of us said a thing, except for one word she said as she left for the last time. Goodbye. Be that as it may, this feels more final. The capstone on an experiment that both of us tried and failed at. A loud shout draws my ears away from the letter. It's some students horsing around, with one of the teachers standing nearby coming over to talk to them. Are you okay? Yuko. A tentative voice comes from my side. For a moment I assume it to be Hanako, but it's actually Yuko. Oh, hello Yuko, I thought you'd be in the library. She gives a cheerful smile, one quite fitting the atmosphere, and flourishes the empty wrapper of a roll in her hand. She must have someone else covering for her while she grabs something to eat. It reminds me I haven't had anything to eat yet. I don't feel hungry though, and skipping one lunch won't hurt. It probably would. Mind if I sit here? Sure, go ahead. I quickly slide the letter back into its envelope, slip it inside my bag propped against the side of the bench as Yuko takes a seat. She drops the wrapper into a bin beside us. Without much else to do, I lean back and take what enjoyment I can from the sun, sitting silently reflecting on the letter. The lush lawns, the clear blue skies, everything looks so different from the way it did back then. Even the school surroundings, from the hill it's on to the woods around it, are completely opposite to the urban scenery I remember. Maybe this is what it feels like to feel homesick, sorry. But again, it's not an outright bad sensation. The feel of the area around Yamaku, while very different, is also nice. I think I can get used to it. Hey Hisao? Yeah? You didn't answer my question from before. I wasn't going to say anything, but you still look troubled. If you don't want to say anything though, that's okay. I don't at all mind. Sorry for asking something strange like that. I don't mind. It's just, I got a letter from someone I knew before I came to Yamako. It made me think about some things. I thought I managed to get over most of the problems that my accident caused, but now I'm not really so sure. I kind of wish I'd never seen it. I don't think that's good, Hisao. When my boyfriend left me, he did so very suddenly, and never let me know why. At first I was very depressed about it, but I decided to forgive him. You forgave him? Couldn't he at least have talked properly with you about it? He was always one of those people who found it difficult to come close to others. In the end, I decided I fell in love with him for a reason. He was a good person, and I think that if I had been in his position, I would probably have found it just as hard to try and talk to him. I don't really see the connection to the letter I got. I mean that, how shall I put this? It must have been very hard for that person to send that letter, and if they did, I think they must have thought very hard about exactly what to say. Wanako managed to write this letter and bring a final close to our relationship. Something that I'd never managed to do. Whereas here I am, trying to protect and help Hanako as best I can, especially with Lily leaving for a while, and I'm not even able to deal with my own problems. Does that make sense? She takes my non-responsive and frowned bow as doubt. She really reads faces too much, just like a certain other person. Yeah, that makes sense. The letter was just kind of a shock, really. I think I tried to fool myself into thinking that my life reset when I came into Yamako, but now I'm suddenly aware that it didn't. I'm at a bit of a loss of how to deal with these feelings. I think that's something I can't really help you with. Sorry. It's fine. I think being able to talk with you helped me get things sorted out a bit better in my head, so thank you anyway. She nods and smiles sweetly. Yuko is a nice girl, so it's a shame she's so highly strung so often. And the school bell ringing out startles us both. I was supposed to be back before a bell. Oops. She jumps off the bench and almost races over without a second word, but turns on her heels as she remembers she was talking to me just now. I'll see you later, Hisao. Cheer up, okay? I'll try to. Thanks, Yuko. With a quick bow, Yuko takes her leave and begins her rush to the library. Her flight catches the curious eyes of a few passing students who are unenthusiastically trotting back to their classes after their fun. Reluctantly standing from the bench, I dust myself off and join them. Even while I walk through the gardens back to the main building, the thought of the letter on my bag doesn't stray far from my mind. Nighttime. The theme of walking through the streets is one of very deep nostalgia. While Yamako may be like the reverse of where I lived in the past, the city at night is amazingly familiar. My eyes are moving constantly from the bright electronic screens glowing high in the night sky, to the street lamps piercing the darkness with their light, to the businessmen enjoying themselves after work and the busy talking couples on days. Even if I didn't want to, I can't help soaking in every aspect of the city. I savour its familiarity like a sweet candy sitting on my tongue. And these two. Lydia's walking to my left with her cane swaying to and fro, holding on to her sister's arm for guidance while talking to her. Compared to travelling by taxi or bus, being driven by Akira in her rather nice car was a much more enjoyable experience. And Hanako. Maybe not for the person on my right though. While Lee was used to her sister's driving style, and I quite liked a bit of excitement, Hanako was holding very tightly to the door for most of the trip. Obviously not that fond of travelling in cars, I imagine. But the hat caught me off guard, actually. Everything looks so pretty at night. Hanako quickly looks down yet again as she accidentally catches someone's gaze. Yeah, it does. My answer isn't very thoughtful, since I'm distracted by so many thoughts I've found it hard to keep up on small talk. One of those distractions aside from the city sights is how Hanako looks. This is the first time I've seen her in something other than her school uniform or her pyjamas. It gave me pause when I first saw her outfit, when we met up at the school gate. Considering we didn't even see the school gate encounter, considering how much her head is lowered when people walk near us, I imagine that the hat she wears is more than a fashion statement. While initially I was wary of Lily's plan to take us out into the city, when night fell it became obvious she had thought about this. Not many people have paid Hanako much heed, since the darkness hides her scarring well. So, we're in the city. Any ideas on what to do? Akira beams a smile. Something tells her that she's the one who is making this particular decision, even if her sister may have proposed to be out in the first place. You'll see. Just follow us. I nod and try my best to stifle a grimace. After what happened during Hanako's birthday party, I don't trust Akira's judgment all that much. We keep walking and notice that we're passing more and more cafes, restaurants and other eateries. Every once in a while, a drunken man in a suit comes out of a bar, usually being supported by another, but for the most part, the customers around this part of the city look young and fashionable. Different kinds of music come and go as we pass by each business. The discord created by the overlap should be grating, but it reminds me so strongly of the times I spent in this city with my old friends, so I don't mind. Hanako and I have started to drift a little apart from Lily and Akira. That comes to a stop when I hear a soft thud from beside me. Sorry! By the time she's right herself and her apologetic from her apologetic bow, the middle-aged businessman she bumped into was walking away after mumbling a half-hearted apology. Hanako looks a little put off by the experience, and as she quickly skips ahead to match my pace, I notice her head hanging low once more. She probably bumped into him because she was looking downwards and not sure where she was going. I stepped to the side a little and put one hand on her far shoulder, drawing her closer. Hi, Sal? It's okay. You can walk close to me if you want to. Hanako hesitates but eventually nods in assent. After a couple of times when I thought we had arrived at Akira's destination, we reach our target. By now we're below the elevated walkways and past the most garish and brightly lit places. I'm a bit surprised. The average age of those around us is distinctly older, and the smell of cigarette smoke is pretty thick. The area is far from seedy though, and it's a little amusing to see Lydia's reaction to the smell of the smoke. While it's masked by the low talking of those around us, jazz music can be heard emanating from inside. Looking up at the dimly lit sign, it becomes obvious why. A jazz club? I have to admit, this isn't what I expected. Lily gives an amused snort and a smile. Somehow I feel like I should have known it, Akira. As we walk outside, I notice more and more odd sideways glances directed our way. People awkwardly catch themselves staring and look away, but that just makes it more obvious. I had noticed this occasionally while we were walking, but it's more pronounced now. I never experienced anything like this in my life. An average-looking Japanese teenage guy, just as taller than normal, isn't the type to draw attention without making an effort. Hey, come on, just because you're teenage doesn't mean you can't have a taste, right? Well, I don't really mind the music, if that's what you mean. I don't mind it either. She's only just managed to force words out. It contrasts heavily to when we were alone in Yamako, and it disappoints me a little that she's so highly strung for what's supposed to be a good time out of the town. It's hard to read Hanako's face, she keeps looking downwards. It's a little wonder if she doesn't often come out into the city because of this, and it makes me a little thankful that my own scarring is easily hidden. Lee has a way of attracting people's gazes, but the reason for it is clearly different. She hardly looks like a native, and the same can be said of her sister. That much is far more noticeable than her blindness from a distance. She may not be able to see this for herself, but I have little doubt she can hear the odd whispered phrase from people who think they're out of earshot. Be that as it may, she doesn't seem to show any sign of either annoyance or pleasure at the attention. Akira still as content as ever, though. Flashing a smile, she strides in with Lily by her side, and the two of us follow behind. I had expected my eyes to need adjusting to the light inside, but it's not much brighter than outside. The music we heard is clearer now, mixed in with the sound of glasses mixing on the tables and counters, and the husky chatter of the patrons. Looking to my right reveals the music source, a jazz group playing beyond some tables. The patrons seem to be mostly men, and though there's a handful of women, nobody looks under 30, aside from us of course. It feels a little like we've skipped into the 1920s, and the atmosphere is quite agreeable. I'm not completely comfortable simply because of my age, but were I older, I'll probably feel quite at home. Hanako seems a bit more relaxed now, probably due to nobody looking at her. Everybody's talking between themselves, drinking and watching the band. And Akira casually takes a seat at the counter without even glancing around. She's probably been here before. Anyways, I know I said that wrong. Lydia retracts her cane, feeling out the bar stool and the edge of the counter before taking a seat beside her sister. The bartender takes a brief break from polishing a glass to watch her, before putting it down and coming over. Good evening, ladies. What'll it be? Just a scotch, thanks. Lily? May I have a glass of A black-suited elbow hits her side sharply. Orange juice, please. No problem, coming right up. The bartender starts to pour their drinks. A couple of seconds pass before Akira suddenly remembers that Hanako and I are indeed here and turns around to us. You two want anything? Or are you just going to stand there? Hanako seems to be getting a bit restless. No matter where we're going to seat ourselves, there's going to be people right next to her, and I don't think she looks convincingly older than 20, unlike Lily. Looking around, there's a game section to our right. A couple of billiards tables can be seen in the corner, and nobody's using them either. I glance at Hanako, about to ask her if she'd like to play, but she's already looking longingly in the same direction. Maybe it says something that we can get by with so few words nowadays. We'll go play pool over there. Akira leans back to see past me before shrugging and sitting back up. It seems you'll have to put up with only me for company, how unfortunate. Have fun, you two. We turn and set off for the abandoned corner, with Hanako taking the lead. The prospect of a nice quiet game away from everyone makes her walk noticeably faster. Her eyes stay firmly fixed on her prize. The table's full size and well lit despite the surrounding darkness, thanks to the bright overhead lights. A huge painting of something covers the wall. There aren't many people milling around this corner of the club, and I can see Hanako becoming a little less tense as a result. You know how to play? I'm no expert, but yeah, I do. Then, 8-ball? Sure. Hanako gets the chalk and 2 cues from a set of hooks against one of the walls, while I fetch the balls from the table's pockets and grab the rack from a shelf underneath. She patiently waits as I get the table set up. After slotting the final ball into the rack and doing some last adjustments, and having to fight my perfectionist urges in getting the bottom row of balls exactly perpendicular with the edges. With the balls arranged and ready to play, I step back and take my cue from her outstretched arms. I carry out a quick inspection of the tip before I'm satisfied that it's in good condition. So you've played before? Once or twice. I just kind of know the rules. The air between us feels a little awkward. She's still pretty nervous, understandably given that we're in public. Eventually the silence becomes too much even for Hanako and she begins to quietly stammer. Break. I think for a moment before reaching to my pocket and drawing a coin. I'll take heads, your tails. After a nod of agreement from Hanako, I flip the coin up in the air and catch it and flip it over onto the back of my left hand. Looks like it's you that gets to break. Hanako nods again before taking up her position at the end of the table to perform the most striking of angles of her. Anyways, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but she's playing pool. She's not usually this quiet around me, but I'm not wholly sure if it's because of the tidbit of information about her past that slipped out moments ago. The cue comes back in a practice gesture before smacking dead in the center of the cue ball with a thud. The white ball skates across the smooth green expanse before smashing into the carefully arranged balls at the other end. Balls scatter across the table at high speed. The break was good, with the balls being nicely distributed around the table. My eyes already flicking from one to another to pick out the easiest candidates to pocket. Hanako retreats from the side and I take my shot. Well done. It's only after Hanako says that I realised the ball I was shooting at was sunk. I look at her and notice a small smile on her face. It's nice how playing games seems to loosen her up a little. Guess I'm stripes then. And Hanako is solid. I take a step back and let her take the next shot, but she doesn't advance to the table. Rather, she looks down a little and rubs her arm. By now I can identify this as one of her gestures that means that she wants to say something, but isn't sure enough of herself to do it. What's up? It's just, you had a nice smile. Do you like playing this? I sigh and lean back against the table. I like playing, yeah. I think I was smiling because it's really nostalgic though. Hanako tilts her head quizzically. Me and my friends used to play pool in the game centers near where we lived pretty often, and at night too. Wouldn't your parents? My parents both work, so they didn't mind me not being in the house. I stayed on top of schoolwork pretty easily as well, so there was plenty of time to do other stuff at night. Our conversation dies down, with Hanako's timidity getting the better of her. In response, I get off the table and let her take her turn shooting. And there aren't many solid and easy positions, so Hanako bends down and takes a while to line herself up properly, trying to make sure that she's doing this properly. And Hanako's expression is the same as when we play chess, a relaxed but focused concentration. Athletes sometimes talk about getting into a zone where nothing unnecessary enters the mind, and I wonder if that's something she can do. Her posture is good, better than mine, to be sure. It's very close to a textbook method of playing, whereas I try to contort myself into whatever position I feel is most natural for a shot I'm taking. She lines up, she looks very determined now. The cue comes back and she does a couple of practice movements to make sure she's lined up correctly. Hanako takes the game so seriously. It's the only real hobby I know she has. Outside of reading, it feels good to be able to share this kind of experience with her. She takes the shot after careful consideration. The cue ball zones off towards a ball sitting at a slightly awkward angle near the corner. Hanako's careful preparation pays off as the cue ball hits and sends the ball rolling down towards the corner pocket. For a moment it looks like it will stop just on the lip of the hole, but eventually tilts just enough to drop in. Man, that was a hard shot. If you could pull that off, I don't think I have much hope. I'm not that good. It's not just a shot though. Even when lining it up, you look really serious. You like this with chess too. But praise makes her a little flustered. She sets the cue against the table and stands turning to me. I just like those kind of things. Her fingers are twisting and turning tightly. When I was in the orphanage, I just kept doing the things I liked before. If I played games with the others, that was enough for the helpers. So I never thought about it that way. Staff at an orphanage would naturally want to have everyone socialise at least a little. If it's okay for me, what was it like for you at the orphanage? Why do you want to know? I've touched a nerve, but the fact that she responded at all shows that at least a chance she'll answer my question. Before, she likely would have just shrunk away from it without a word. I'll tell you, but could you tell me who Iwanoko is? Iwanoko? Oh, the letter! I wonder how long she's been waiting for the right opportunity to ask me this. I'm surprised, but don't hesitate. Sharing information is naturally a matter of give and take. Exactly. She's someone I used to like. Her nervousness subsided, at least for the time it took to answer. Her curiosity is getting the better of me, and I feel a bit uncomfortable to be questioned on this, of all matters. There's no way I could spit out all my feelings about Iwanaka here. I don't even know myself what my feelings regarding her are, even after talking to Yuko earlier, and I want to avoid the subject around Hanako. Hanako doesn't look overly satisfied with the awkward ending to the discussion, but thinks better to continue it. She was only just managed to ask me in the first place, without knowing that I wouldn't want to talk about it. I moved to finally taking my own shot. The lack of talking between us is filled by the chatter of other patrons and the band at the other end of the club, Spying a shot that doesn't look too difficult and try to shoot for it. The cue ball taps the ball and the trajectory is about right. By putting too much power, it grazes the corner of the hole and moves off to the side, just skirting the pocket. I grit my teeth a little. I was pretty good at this game. It's frustrating to have deteriorated so much. I step back and let Hanako take her turn. Glancing towards the counter where Lily and Akira are sitting. They're talking busy between themselves and seem to be having a good time. I turn back to Hanako as she takes a shot. With the same face as before, she lines herself up and sharply pushes the cue. Just before she sinks the ball where she was aiming for, it drops into the side pocket more cleanly than her last, though it looks as if she's getting a bit more into the groove of the game. Nicely done. She hesitates for a moment and begins to address me without turning her head. The orphanage was nice. It felt a bit like Yumako does, and the staff were really kind. But as the years went on, I realized something. I was different. It feels strange to hear her speak so candidly about herself. She's audibly forcing the words out. It reminds me of when she insisted that she tell me about the fire. Hanako must feel that she has to tell me of such things if I'm willing to tell her about my own past. Her grip on the cue tightens as she continues to speak. Most of the children there were up for adoption just like I was, but unlike me, they gradually left, one by one. By the time I went to Yumako, I was among the oldest children there. For a while, I helped with some of the younger children, but eventually... I lay a hand on her shoulder. She's forcing herself by now. It's okay. She looks mildly surprised for a moment, but then nods before setting down her cue and turning towards me. Do you really think so? Yeah, I think so. Even while Lily's away, I'll be around to protect you, right? Hanako looks at me for a long time, and I'm taken a bit off guard. Her expression hasn't changed from before, still looking somewhat mundane. Mundane? I've not heard that word before in my life, and signs between us aren't unusual. I think it's the fact that she's holding such prolonged eye contact that makes me feel a bit odd. It feels as if she's judging me. It's a very strange, vaguely uncomfortable feeling. Hanako? I understand, thank you. She smiles and looks away a little, but it feels stilted. Hanako are very good at faking emotions, and this is no exception. I move to the table and take my turn to try and distract myself, but it doesn't seem to work. Does she think I'm not up to the task of helping her? Is she disappointed in me? I'm probably overthinking this. While the sciences are just an accepted fact of life by now, sometimes I do wish she'd speak more. That's not something for you to decide though, that's something that she has to do herself. With a thud, I center the white sphere craning down the table into my target. Hanako sees what's happening just as I do. The ball hits hard with the striped ball I'd intended to sink veerily off towards the 8-ball. Sure enough, as both Hanako and I look on and bite our lips, they connect and the black ball rolls leisurely into a corner pocket. All I can do is sigh. It looks like Hanako is smiling again though, so maybe it wasn't for naught. That was an awful shot. You win. It seems like getting pretty rusty after all this time. Hanako bends down and begins to shoot the remaining balls in the closest pockets. I almost ask if we play another game, but a quick check on my watch confirms that the night is getting pretty late. Lee and Akira appear to be still drinking at the counter. Seems like we'll have to drag them away. Hi, Sal? I turn back to Hanako, who's still looking over the pool table shooting balls. Her voice sounds different from before, and so is mine. I don't know why I sound so croaky now. I'm here for you as well. I suddenly find myself blushing. It's only natural that she'd respond that way, given what I said earlier, but it's still a shock to actually hear it. Indeed it is, because it's an unusual thing to hear from a unusually quiet person. Just what is my relationship with this girl? I want to protect her to make her happy. I'm not really sure that it's something like love, but I don't think these are the same kinds of feelings I have for Lily either. I feel sorry for her, having gone through so much in her life. Her parents died in a house fire and she lived in an orphanage for much of her childhood. I can't even imagine that kind of life. But I feel like there's so little I can do for her, especially now that Lily is going to be leaving the country. What you can do for her right now is make sure that now and the future can be pleasant. You can't change her past. You can't undo the events that have caused her to become like this, to cause her to have the scars on her right side of her body. I can imagine that it's more than just her face and her arm that's also covered in scars, but you can help her have a bright future. Stop looking to try and restore the past, because it's impossible to do. You can help her have a brighter future though. Hanako and I finish tidying up the table and cues and pick up Lily and Akira on our way out of the club. It feels like something changed between Hanako and me. I can't quite place what it is, but Hanako is acting differently now. I feel like we're further apart if anything. So, you enjoy yourselves? Hanako and I both nod and agree. The game was good, and we both did learn more about each other, so it's an honest answer. Lily appears to be a little distracted. Worried about the trip, Lily? She pauses before sighing and smiling weakly. A little. It means quite a bit. The comment earns her a clap on the shoulder from her sister. Hanako smiles back too. You'll be okay, Lily. I hope you can enjoy your time over there. Thank you, Hanako. I'll try to. It would be nice to be back with my family after all, no matter for how brief a time it may be. With that, the four of us begin the walk to the car park where Kira's car is. We continue to talk between ourselves, but it's mostly just small talk. Mostly just small talk after all. Right then, are you taking the bus, Lily? Is she taking the bus? Lily motions to a large suitcase standing beside her. I'll have to take this with me, so I booked a taxi. It'll meet us at the school gates in about 5 minutes. Ah, I see. Which makes sense, considering a large suitcase in Lily. Lily reaches down and feels out the handle of her suitcase. Its weight causes her some difficulty, so I quickly offer to take it myself. That is awfully kind of you, Hisao. She has no qualms about accepting, and I end up picking it up. It's not what I'd call light, but it's not exactly heavy either. I don't think I'll have too much trouble carrying it. Well, thank you then. We should hurry though. If a taxi leaves, then it will take quite a while to book a new one. Are you ready, Hanako? Yeah, let's go. Let us go. We rush to the gate as fast as we can, only to find that the taxi is yet to arrive. Well, it's better to be early than late. Well, nothing like a bit of exercise in the morning, but the nurse told me that I should be doing that. Well, I think you probably had other things in mind, Hisao, and probably with more regularity. Do you intend to be helping people with their luggage every day? I guess not. Looks like we've got a bit to wait anyway. How long should we wait for the taxi before calling him again? I would say another 10 minutes, but they've never let me down before. There's probably just a little traffic. Okay then. So how long is the flight to Scotland? A long time. About 16 hours if I remember correctly. It's a bit hard to tell with the changing time zones. So long. It's now that I realise Hanako has been unusually quiet, even for her. She doesn't handle stress so well, so she's looking really uptight. Yeah, I can't imagine being on a plane for that long. I've only ever flown for a short family holiday up north, so it really is quite hard to fathom if Hanako spent so much of her childhood at an orphanage. She's probably travelled very little, let alone flown. It's not too bad. I'll spend most of it either sleeping or catching up on my English. I hardly use that here, so I need to refamiliarise myself with it a little. Will your accent be a problem? I wouldn't worry about that too much. It may be an issue initially, but I should be fine once I get used to it. We all moved to sit down on the small bench beside the school gate in silence. Strangely enough, even though I know that Lily is going away, I can't think of anything to say to her. Lily is a reliable person, so it might be because she isn't the one that I'm thinking of most. Lily may not be able to see, but Hanako is chewing her fingernails nervously. I move to talk to her, but can hear an engine straying up the hill before I get the chance. Ah, I think the taxi is on its way. Well spotted, Hisao, and he just heard it as well. A small wave of pride washes over me. To have noticed something at the same time as Lily must mean that I've become more aware of my surroundings. When it's silence, you can hear the quieter voices more audibly. Anyway, won't have to call the taxi company nor worry about missing Lily's plane. Once the taxi stops where we're standing, the driver rolls down a window and leans over. After confirming that yes, Lily is the same Lily Satu that books the trip, we sort out her luggage. The driver opens the trunk of the taxi and takes Lily's suitcase, with Lily climbing into the back seat as he loads it into the trunk and slams it shut. After getting back into his seat and shutting off, he waits for us to say our farewell. Have a safe trip, Lily. Take care of yourself. Hanako looks understandably downcast, and that much is obvious even her voice. Of course I will. I will be back before long, don't worry. There'll still be another person here for you too. Won't there, Hisao? Yeah, of course. I turn and smile to Hanako, putting my hand on her shoulder as a means of comfort. She only managed to keep eye contact with me for a couple of seconds, her cheeks red all the while, before turning back to Lily. See you, Lily. Goodbye. Lily gives her farewells to both of us with a fair measure of reluctance. Without further ado, the driver starts the engine once more, and we begin the journey down the hill and towards the airport. The two of us stand at the gates for a long time, even after they've disappeared from sight, not really knowing what to do. So, what do you want to do? I don't know. Really perturbing. I feel like this one is an important point of the game. How about we call it a day? I don't know about you, but I think I'm going to try and take a nap. My head is killing me. Judging by Hanako's instant relief, I can only assume that I've guessed right. I don't think she wants to be out and about. Wordlessly, she turns and heads back through the school gate. Sometimes the opposite might be better. We walk all the way back to the dorms together, stopping awkwardly at the spot where we need to part. Well then, goodbye. Do you want to have some tea or something later? How about a game? Hanako shoves her head embarrassedly. I'm tired. Maybe tomorrow? I've got homework. I suppose she would have a bit of schoolwork to catch up on. She's missed a few days of lessons after all. Ah, homework. Thanks for reminding me. I've got a stack to do as well. I guess I'll see you tomorrow? See you, Hisao. Before I could say goodbye, Hanako has turned and begun walking towards the entrance to the female dormitory building. I look at the door she disappears through for a bit, before going off towards my own dorms. Tomorrow will be a better day. Act 4. So I suppose the ending is in sight then, if that is going to be the case. Let's see. Scars. Ouch. I woke up, took my pills, had a nice shower, quickly slipped on my uniform, ate a tasty breakfast, grabbed my bag and headed off, all as per my usual daily routine. It was only after arriving in class that the normality of the day was thrown off. Hanako's not there. After taking my seat, I watched my classmates trickle into the room over the next hour, until every empty seat was eventually taken, other than Hanako's. I can never get used to the idea that she just doesn't show up to class every now and again. It feels a little more worrying now as well, given that Lily's left. As music continues to drone, I find myself flickering ever so often over to her seat, as if she might appear there any moment now. Nobody else seems to care at all about her absence, but they have little reason to. Hanako being absent from class, after all, is perfectly normal. Or at least, it was. Her attendance hadn't been all that bad for what I've seen in my time here, but it was apparently much more spotty beforehand. This is also an ominous time for her to be gone. It's the day before her birthday, and my suspicion is starting to rise, after the breakdown she had in class when it was mentioned. An increasing amount of my thoughts is taken up by how I can help her, but in the end I felt I can't do anything. The bell hurtling the beginning of lunchtime rings out, shaking me out of my thoughts. A collective sigh of relief can be heard from the class. Vermuto looks quite put off. He dislikes being interrupted in the middle of his exciting lectures after all. Just when I'm wondering what I should do on my lunch break, given that Hanako and Lily aren't here, the solution presents itself. Afternoon, Hai-chan. Hi there. Afternoon, Misha. Shizunie, you both look as bright as ever. Sai-chan wants to know if you would like to have lunch with us today. Sure, it'll be good to have some company. The cafeteria hums with activity much like my old schools did. Yumako is different though, in how strangely civilized the lunchtime rush is. What one would expect to be an unruly mob chomping at the bit to get to the serving area is rather a neat and organized line. There's a small amount of jostling, and people's heads are often craning around to check on what's happening up ahead, but it's pretty subdued. This is due, my bad folks, I do apologise, to the very serious rules regarding such matters in this school. The same strict discipline is observed when students move in the hallways, or come to and from their dormitories at the school gate. While the reasons for it may be slightly off-putting, I've come to quite like the sense of order that's enforced in the school. I don't really like being told by Shizunie and Misha to get their lunches though. I feel little used as I take a seat where they're sitting, plunking their food down in front of them. Sweet bread and strawberry milk for Misha, a bowl of ramen and juice for Shizunie. I heave a sigh of relief as I put it all down after the significant difficulty I had carrying it all in addition to my own lunch. Thank you! Misha claps her hands together before popping open the wrapper and digging into her bread ravenously. Shizunie simply gives an appreciative nod before giving her steaming bowl ramen, so I stir and about blowing on it a little to cool it down. I open my own lunch, another packet of sweet bread, and take a bite before washing it down with some juice. The bread is very sweet, so much so that I end up forcing myself to stomach it just to get the experience over with. Midway through, I decide to take a break from the difficult task and ask what's on my mind. So, I'm guessing you two had a reason to drag me down here. You two seem to always have an ulterior motive after all. What are you saying, fan? Would you just finish your food before saying something? Her mouth is full of sweet bread as she speaks. It's a pretty unpleasant sight. Shizen looks a little grossed out before going back to eating her ramen. I wait until Misha swallows what she has in her mouth before speaking again. You're not buttering me up to make me work with you after school. Nope. Not trying to extract information from me that I might not want to give? Nah. Fine, you win. I guess you just want to eat lunch with someone as intelligent and handsome as me then. That's it, Hai-chan, you got it. Shizney looks unimpressed as Misha finishes signing our conversation and sucks in the last of a long noodle as she signs her own thoughts. Shai-chan said you shouldn't be so suspicious of us. She's just doing her duty as a class representative after all. Yeah, the head class representative. How is she, Are you doing that? As much as I hate to admit it, it looks as if I still have trouble communicating with Shizney. It should be a simple matter of keeping my eye contact without addressing Shizney instead of Misha in my speech. When somebody else is doing the talking for her, it's a surprisingly difficult task. It's the class representative's job to ensure everybody's doing alright in class, isn't it? Not really. Wait, how is making me getting your food ensuring that I'll go well in class? Shizney huffs and adjusts her glasses disapprovingly. So this is the thanks we get for giving you companionship during lunchtime. That's a total dodge of a question. Wait, hang on. How did you know that Lily's away and Hanako's absent, and since those two are the only people you hang around with. You also made it kind of obvious to see. I may have well done so, but she didn't need to rub it in. Maybe there's a payback from before. Right, well, thanks, I appreciate it, and that isn't sarcasm. The two nod and we get back to finishing our meals. It feels a little embarrassing to be accompanied just because they noticed I was lonely, but it isn't far as if they're strangers either. It isn't long before I finish the last of my bread and start on the last of my juice, and as I do so, I find my mind wandering back to what I'd been thinking about before the two interrupted my train of thought. It feels like I'm the only one in the class that so much as acknowledges Hanako not being there. It felt like this the other times she skipped classes, but now it's even more acutely annoying. Does nobody care if she's happy or not? Have they just written off any possibility of helping to make her feel better? Even Muto doesn't try to keep her in class, and I'm still not wholly convinced by his reasoning. Hey Hai-chan, is your juice past its expiry date? What? You were putting a weird face like this. As if it were needed, Misha mimics my own expression. Her exaggeration makes me grimace, though Shizney at least takes some amusement from it. I was just thinking about Hanako. Oh? Misha's interest is piqued and so is Shizney's, once my words are interpreted for her. I'm just worried about her being so absent so often, especially now though, what with her birthday coming around. The moments of that incident in class are still fresh in their minds. Their faces alone are telling me that much. Do you know anything about Hanako? Anything that might help? Misha shrugs and looks to Shizney, who mulls on this for a while. The only people she's ever talked to for more than a sentence or two are you and Lily. Shizney may not be able to convey Lily's name in a derisive tone of speech, but I feel as if it comes through in her sign language. The effect is lost, however, of the missionary's interpretation. There are a couple of things we know about Hanako as student council members, thanks to the records that pass through our hands, but we can't say anything about what's in them. Understandable. Confidentiality, after all. It sounds a lot like the nurse's patient confidentiality. Every time I find someone that knows something about Hanako's past, it turns up being a dead end. The only way I'll ever find out is by asking her. I don't know if she'll let me know such things, but if it's for her sake, I have to at least try. Don't worry about it, Hai-chan. It happens every year after all. That doesn't remove my sense of worry at all. I still feel there's a fault for what happened in class, but this feels like it goes further even without their confirmation of the fact. Misha noticed my troubled expression, her own usual happy and reassuring face dropping. Everyone has problems they have to deal with, right? Hai-chan? Yeah, I just wish I could help Hanako more with hers. With that, the conversation trails off on a depressing note. Eventually, Misha managed to pick the mood back up through her usual bright and bubbly antics, but my mind remains focused on Hanako. I'll go check on her later. Later. I'll make sure my door is locked after dropping off my school bag, and guess what? Kenji's going to talk to us? Is Kenji going to talk to us? The dorms are quiet. Muto kept me occupied longer than I expected, discussing my studies after classes end and pressing on me some worksheets to give to Hanako almost as an afterthought. Absorbed in thought, I'm late in registering the shadow that appears in front of me. Looking up reveals the owner of said shadow. Is it Kenji? Moving on, he retreats to his dormitory room. Thankfully, I'd better go see Hanako. Hello, I stand outside of the door to Hanako's room, hoping that she isn't in too much of a state as I nervously clutch the worksheets Muto asked me to pass on to her. It's one more reason to visit her, and it gives me something to talk about, so I suppose I should be thankful to him for giving me the task. With a long breath to steady myself, I rap my knuckles on the door in front of me. Silence. I listen intently for any sound of shuffling coming from inside, but I can't hear a thing. I knock on the door again, slightly harder. Still no answer. How strange. Scratching my head, I make one last attempt at getting her to answer as I knock on the door one final time. Hanako, it's me. Mita said to give you some stuff. For a while, the attempt seems just as unsuccessful as the last. Just before I slip the sheet under her door, though, I hear the handle rattling. Hello? As the door opens halfway, I quickly try to see how Hanako's faring. It's a task made somewhat more difficult by her oversized gown hiding so much of her body. She doesn't look sick, or at least not immediately so, to be honest. I'd have preferred that to her expression right now. She looks terribly tired, and appears to be barely acknowledging my presence. Hi, Hanako. Muta wanted me to give you these since you weren't in class today. I hold out the loose sheets, which she tentatively takes in her hands. The way she moves is devoid of thought. Her posture is slumped, in an unusual manner for someone that's so often tense and wound up, Even her eyes keep looking away from mine, doing their best to avoid eye contact. I move my head a little to try and get a better look, but she just ends up turning away. Are you okay? If you're feeling sick or anything, I could go get a nurse. It feels almost pitiful to put on such a routine get well soon act. I can't think of anything else I could possibly do for her though. She seems to collect herself a little with the notion, but only a little. Her head remains turned away, but her eyes move towards me. I'm fine. An awkward silence follows. As it lingers, I notice that the sleeves and the cuffs of her gown bear slightly damp stains. Her cheeks are a bit red too. Has she been crying? I see. I hesitate a little before coming out with the words I really came here to say. Would you like me to stay? I don't have anything urgent to do at the moment, so it wouldn't be any trouble. Her eyes slide away from mine, and I lose any hope for an improvement of her mood. I wait for a response, but she doesn't say anything, nor give any kind of gesture. She just stands there, look away from me. Hanako? She slowly shakes her head. Okay, good night then. Damn. Wow. She's distraught by something. Wandering up the hallway, I keep mulling over what happened. It felt like Hanako was only half there, as if I was interacting with a robot that was just doing what it was programmed to without any real thought. She was a husk of a person. This is frustrating. I'd hoped that meeting Hanako would help the situation, but I feel like it's only made it harder to understand her. How am I supposed to try and help her when she quite literally shuts me out like that? I don't even bother to turn on the light, opting instead to simply change into my pajamas, quickly choking down my evening pills and collapse onto my bed. Once again, Hanako doesn't turn up for class. Try as I might to concentrate on other matters, the fact continues to distract me throughout the entire school day, and even as I walk through the school gardens to the dormitories. I don't think today being her birthday is a coincidence either. I don't know the link between the two events though, nor do I have any idea of what she's feeling. Were it physical pain, I could at least provide some limited comfort. With something like this though, I have no idea where to start. I run the people I know through my head, thinking about whether they could help. She isn't a Misha, don't know that much about Hanako, and what little they do know they can't tell me. Same for the nurse. In the end, there's only one person that knows Hanako well and would be willing to tell me anything. Lily. Entering my dormitory room, I notice something that takes me off guard. It's starting to feel familiar. With everything that's going on around me, I'm thankful this room was started to finally be somewhere I could relax a little. When I'd first entered Yamako, it felt immediately foreign in every way, from the untouched neatness to the way it smelled. Focusing back on the task at hand, I throw my bag onto the bed as I open the top drawer on my desk. Before she left, Lily told me the number to call her on one in Scotland, and I wrote it down. In hindsight, I wonder if she knew something like this could happen. Now that she's out of reach, I realise just how much both Hanako and I have relied on her for guidance. I dig around drawer after drawer, looking for a damn piece of paper. Eventually, thankfully, I found it nestled under a borrowed library book. I probably should have just entered it directly into my cell phone. Come to think of it, without further ado, I enter the numbers and actually press the call button. Eventually, the phone picks up. A feminine voice I don't recognise on the other end. It's probably Lily's mother. Satu? English. Suddenly find myself unprepared. I realise I can't understand a word she says, either due to my limited vocabulary or her heavy accent. I should have anticipated this, since according to Lily, her mother is a native Scot. I soldier on in the hope that she must know some Japanese considering it's her daughter's native language. It's Hisao Nakai speaking. An enthusiastic sound of realization can be heard as she recognizes the language. My feeling of relief is immense. Ah, you must be one of Lily's friends from school, correct? Even so, her accent means I have to concentrate to work out what she's saying. Yes, that's right. Pleased to speak to you, Mrs. Satu. It's so nice it's so nice of her to find someone so polite. Lily dear, it's for you. Her mother seems nice, if a little over-enthusiastic given the mundane situation. There's a small silence as Lily takes her time getting the phone. In the distance, I can just make out her mother scolding her playfully for just getting up. Hello, Lily speaking. You sound awful. She makes a sound somewhere between a dying animal and a yawn. For one thing I did remember to check before calling was the time zone. It'd be pretty late in the morning over there, so she really has no excuse. Not feeling well? Just tired. What time is it there? Late afternoon. School finished for the day not long ago. Hanako's not well, is she? That was quick. My assumption that she must have known something like this could happen seems to be being on a mark. How did you know? Because today is her birthday. I hope she might have gotten at least a little better after coming to know you, but how's she right now? She missed school today and yesterday. I still have to check on her today. To be honest, after seeing how she was when I talked to her yesterday, I'm pretty anxious. I really have no idea what to make of it. Has this happened in the past? Is it related to her scarring in some way? Unfortunately so. Roughly the same thing happened last year when her birthday came up. As far as I can tell, it's because her parents died in the accident that caused her scarring, and Hanako blames herself for their deaths. What she says does seem to make sense. If she's blaming herself on her birthday, then she may as well be ruling that she was ever born. Oh gosh. Hanako had mentioned her stay in the orphanage to me. Maybe I should take some heart that she trusts me enough to tell me such a thing. Lily seeming so in the dark after before, almost to the extent that I am, is a surprise. So that's why she lives in the school students' dormitories as well. Has she told you any more about the accident? As close as we've come, she very barely told me anything about what happened. What I know about it is largely conjecture. She sounds depressed, almost defeated. Considering the trauma Hanako must have gone through, I can't really fault Lily for not knowing. Nevertheless, she still seems to consider it a personal failing. Don't blame yourself, Lily. With everything she's gone through, there's a long silence from the other end of the line. I begin to wonder if the call cut out before the voice at the other end speaks once again. There is another person, though, that has been a subject of worry for me as of late. Oh? I run through the people she could be talking about in my head. The only friends she seems to keep very close are Hanako and me, but there is Akira as well. That person is you, Hisao. There's another silence on the line, but this time it's caused by me. Making others worry about me is something I have very actively tried to avoid since coming to Yumako. Indeed, even my interaction with Hanako has helped stave off any major health problems thanks to our relaxed and slow-paced lives. Huh? What is there to worry about over me? I apologise, I didn't mean any offence. So I was just taken a bit off guard. Still, isn't Hanako a bigger problem at the moment? For some time now, I thought that both of you may be feeding into each other's more worrying habits. I tried to amend this before leaving, but it seems to have done little. Worrying habits. When I asked about what you had in mind for the future, your answer was very similar to what Hanako had said in the past when that question was posed to her. It is well and good to want to protect her, but I feel that treating Hanako like this, as if she were a daughter or someone in need of special care, is only going to achieve the opposite. I agree with Lily about this one, because sometimes when you try and do something, it does have a opposite effect. I listen carefully to what Lily has to say, but I can't bring myself to agree with her. Hanako is a delicate person at the best of times, and after what happened when her birthday was brought up, I think this is the very last situation where we should be leaving her alone if she's deliberately secluding herself. It feels like Lily has a very definite image of how best to deal with Hanako in her mind, though. Not just now, but in all the time that I've known the two. I'm all over the best course of action in my head. I find myself trying to verbally agree with Lily as softly and brilliantly as I can. We make some small talk afterwards, but neither of us really have much stomach for it in the light of recent events. We say our goodbyes before I hang up. I want to talk to Hanako myself, to help her as best I can. The best thing for her right now would be to have someone close to her, not to be left alone. I wrap my knuckles twice on Hanako's door. As expected, there's no answer. I briefly consider knocking again, but I know full well that I just get the same result if I did it. Resting my hands on Hanako's door handle, I try and prepare with what I want to say to her. Try as I might, I can't really think of anything worth saying. I want to comfort her, yes, but I have no idea how to do that. That alone is almost enough to stop me. I told Lily that I would, though, so I feel I have to follow through, whether I'm confident about it or not. I turn the handle downwards. With a large amount of hesitation, it doesn't move far, though, due to the door being locked. Hanako? So she really has locked me out. After everything that's happened between us, and the time we spent together, she shuts me out completely. I don't know if you can hear me, but I just want to talk to you for a bit. If you can hear me, could you unlock the door? I wait in silence. Minutes pass, but eventually I hear footsteps coming to the door and the lock being worked. At least she's willing to hear me out. That's one good thing. I don't really know what to say, but I just want to see you. I want to make sure you're alright. I take a breath before pushing the handle down and opening the door. If she unlocked it without raising any protest, it should be fine for me to go in. Hanako is sitting on the side of her bed, her face swollen as though deep in thought. Her room is as dark as ever, and right now she seems to perfectly suit the mood it gives off. Eventually her eyes slowly move to the door. As soon as she notices my presence, she darts off her bed and jumps to her feet, facing me straight on. Her oversized gown makes this gesture look all the more steeping as it freely moves around her light frame. What are you? I quickly regret coming in as I look at her. She is oppressed, but there is a tinge of anger behind it, so she can make this kind of expression as well. I just want to check that you're alright. I thought it would be okay since you unlocked the door. Hanako opens her mouth to speak, but quickly closes it again before looking away. We stand in silence for a while, before she steps back and sits down on the side of her bed. I'm not sure whether she's frustrated with me and resigned to the fact that I'm here, or generally okay with me being in her room. Once again, I find myself completely unable to work out how she feels. It's annoying. I end up walking to her desk chair and taking a seat. I do it slowly, to allow her time to raise any issues she might have with me sticking around, but she doesn't say anything. All she does is stare at the ground, not moving a muscle. After sitting with my front of the chair's back, I take a better look at Hanako. She appears pale, but her cheeks look red. I'm not sure she's been eating well either, given with how thin her frame looks. Lee might have said it would be better if I kept more of a distance from her, but it's hard to think of it as the correct way to deal with Hanako when she looks like this. She keeps looking at the ground without a word, as if waiting for me to say something. It's entirely reasonable, since I'm the one who came into her room. Want to go out somewhere? Going down the hill to town might be a bit much, but we could at least go for a walk outside. But why do you want to do that? I was thinking it might help you a bit. You spend so much time inside, your skin's going to get pale as lilies belong before long. I snort in amusement, expecting Hanako to do the same, but she gives no reaction. She just goes back into looking at the ground. If you don't want to go, I don't want to go either. It's fine, I played soccer and hung out with friends after school a lot before coming to Yamako, so I like being outdoors. Hanako shows no visible reaction, so it's hard to talk to her when the discussion is so one-sided. We could go to the library. If it's closed by about now, the gardens would be fine though. She begins to play with her hair. It's distracting and strikes me as a little unusual for her. Then again, since the incident in class happened, I've been tiptoeing around her for fear of hurting her like that again. Actually trying to get her outside might be a good thing. I lean forward a bit more in the chair and give her a slightly forced smile to try and lighten the mood a little. There wouldn't be anyone around by now, so you wouldn't have to worry about someone getting in our way. It could be a little date or something. I give a small chuckle but catch myself as Hanako stops playing with her hair and grips the bed tightly. Hanako's mouth moves, but try as I might, I can't pick out what she's mumbling. Hanako? You don't understand. Even now I can only barely understand what she says. It feels like she's trying to make her presence as small as possible. That's incredibly natural for her to do so in class or around others, but it hurts when she tries it around me. I told you it's fine. It's just a little walk. Nobody will notice us. I get out of the chair and walk towards the door, turning back to invite Hanako along. Once again, she doesn't respond at all to what I say. I don't. Going outside for a bit is good for clearing your head. Why do you want to do this? I don't want help. Did you just come here to try and get me out? I don't mind. I think everyone needs help sometimes. When I was trying to get through my first days at Yamako, you and Lily helped me out a lot. Besides, I'm not exactly busy. I don't want to go. I'm fine. I don't really think it's healthy to stay indoors that long. The sun's still got a little life in it. So it's not too late to have at least a little walk. Hisao, you're really pushing it, aren't you? I could probably use a bit of exercise anyway to help wake me up. I've got some homework to get done. It wouldn't be good to fall asleep halfway through doing it. Then go. By myself? Well, I'm not really against that, but are you sure? I swung by to invite you to come with me. I'm fine. You can go. Come on, just a small walk. Please, just go. I'm fine here. Hanako? I try to look at her face to gauge her feelings, but her expression is wooden, as if it was so carefully arranged that a single movement might cause it to collapse. Well, if you want to stay here, maybe we could play a game? Just leave, please. I don't want to do anything right now. Surely there's something you want to do. It must be boring sitting here in your room alone. I want you to go. Look, Hisao, you've been told to go more than once, and you should really respect people's boundaries if they're feeling uncomfortable. If they tell you once and you don't do it, then you are inadvertently causing a friendship to split. Come on, you don't have to be like that. I just want to spend some time with you. Lee and I are so worried, so... You talked to her? Yeah, we were on the phone just a little while ago. We're both really worried about you. Hanako mumbles to herself again. It's increasingly disturbing. Hanako? I'm telling you, please, go away. You don't understand anything. If we just had a talk, you could tell me what I don't understand. I just want to... You're really encroaching on thin ice here, man. Say protect you. Get out, please. Just locking yourself in your own room again isn't going to help anything, Hanako. Please. Silence. That is completely off guard, yes. Get out of my room, get out of my room, get out of my room. Hanako yells at me with such force that, for the first time in a long time, I feel genuinely frightened. I have no idea how to react to this. I'm from Hanako of all people. That is definitely true. That is... Leave! I'm telling you, go! But I was just trying to help you. I know I need help. I know I'm broken. I don't need you to tell me that. I never said you were broken or anything like that. It's written on your face. It's written on Lily's face. It's written on everybody's faces. I see a therapist every week. Lily dots on me as if I were a child. And now, even you. Nothing's changed. Nothing at all. I hate Lily, and I hate you more than anyone. Her face moves in strange, almost grotesque ways. I've never seen someone completely lose it before, but it looks like the usually quiet and withdrawn girl in front of me is going into such a destructive cycle before my eyes. I don't know what to do. I have no idea what I should say or do. Go. Leave me alone. Get out of here. I take a step back, then another. My retreat is only halted when I feel the door against my back. I can't fix the situation. Nothing I say would change anything now. I feel like I'm in a strange and deeply unsettling foreign world. I don't want to be here anymore. The door handle fights my clumsy attempts to open the door without turning my back to Hanako. Eventually, thankfully, the handle moves downwards. I open the door as fast as I can, almost leap backwards through it. As I go through, I keep my eyes on the girl in front of me. She's not broken. Hanako isn't broken. If she was broken, but I'm just as broken as she is after all that's happened to me. Lily only ever did the best by her, and I only ever tried to protect her as best I could. Gosh. Hanako looks down. All her energy spent. Now that I've stepped out of her room, the worst of her fury is gone. What are you thinking? But even now, I can't bring myself to argue with her. It's not just this deep shock of what she said. It feels like something else is stopping me. Something deep that makes me feel physically sick. Without a word, I slowly shut the door. The creak of the old hinges sounds almost deafening. With a final thud, the wooden door closes. The Hanako that I felt I knew disappears behind it, and only faint orange slivers of light peek around the very edges. I feel numb. Without anything else to do, I begin to walk back to my dormitory, mechanically placing one foot in front of the other while barely registering the thing around me. My mind keeps ticking, questioning everything that I thought I knew about Hanako. But one thing is not questioned, that shutting that door brought a close to more than just the single visit. But that single visit, the friendship itself has ended. And I don't think that choosing the other choice would be of any kind of factor. Like, going to town rather than just going back to the dorms would be the better idea. Do you want to go into the city? The bus stop standing by the school gates is like a mute sentinel. Puts a strange idea in my mind. Do you want to head into town and look for a bookstore or something? We have the rest of the day free. It's a long shot, as Hanako doesn't like going into the city. I count the fact that we managed to get her out there, even when it was so dark, as a small miracle, but I generally want to spend more time with her. Anyway, she's likely to just refuse and go back to... Okay, really? Really, let's go. I can't work out why Hanako has decided to agree with me, but I'm not about to ask her to change her mind. Stepping off the bus, I immediately noticed that a lot of people are around us. In hindsight, it should have been obvious. Of course, lots of people would be downtown on a Saturday afternoon. Hanako retreats close to my side, and I can feel her hands clutching my arm tightly. Her body is held against mine, and her head is bowed so low, that her hat hides most of her scarring. So, where shall we go? A bookstore? Shop? Sorry, my words. Hanako's present and my other general living expenses have pretty much drained my budget, so I should be able to afford a few books. There's something I try to reserve a few funds for anyway. For a second, I think Hanako didn't hear me, but then I look to my side and notice her nodding almost imperceptibly. Okay, do you know of one? Actually, I do. We passed a few when Lily and I were looking for your presents. Hanako's expression clouds a fraction. I've got to remember to stop bringing up her birthday. You both spent a lot of time Or maybe I misjudged the situation. We want to make sure we got the right present after all. Hanako smiles and blushes a bit. It's a small treasure when she does. Anyway, there should be a bookstore just up ahead. Do you want to check it out? Sure. The crowd starts to build as we head towards the bookstore along the raised walkways. Hanako latches her arm onto mine as well, making our progress a little slower. As we walk, the sound of the traffic makes me think of a possible distraction for her. I was wondering, Hanako, have you thought yet about what you're going to learn to drive? When you're going to learn to drive, sorry, to driving? Yeah, you're kind of lucky in a way. There aren't a whole lot of students in Yamako that are allowed to drive. It's not the best of conversations, but I want to try and distract Hanako from the situation. She's really high-strung right now. Then again, all I've really done is make her feel awkward, since she's probably never thought about it. I wish I hadn't said anything. Before long, we are before one of the shops Lily and I passed by during our search. What kind of self-respecting bookshop closes on Saturdays? Bookshops don't make much money anymore because of the internet. Maybe they just had to close over weekends? She seems pretty knowledgeable about technology. I guess it's a pursuit that would lend itself well to someone who enjoys solitude. I guess that makes sense. It's easy to find books online, sorry. Anyway, it looks like the idea is shot, sorry. Anything else you'd like to do? If it's not a bother, could you show me where you bought my present? Sure, no problem. It's not far from here. And I head off in the direction of the store, only half sure of its exact location. I don't want a repeat of the last time, spending half a day walking around aimlessly. Here we are, Ophelia's Antiques. It's small. Well, yes, it took Lily and me some time to find it. Can we go in? I don't see why not, it's open. Hanako pushes through the door and enters before me. Once again, the store is empty save for the store owner. His face drops a little when he sees me. Oh, you're not here for a return, are you? Well, that's not the girl you had with you last time. No, we're not here to return anything. We were just in town and wanted to have another look around here. The store owner considers this for quite a long time. I guess he's not used to high school students coming to his shop on a regular basis. Might this be the friend you brought gifts for? That's right, they were presents for her. The store owner turns to Hanako, who freezes on the spot like a deer caught in headlights. He moves to address her, but stops before doing so, looking a little taken aback. He catches himself staring and looks to the side, addressing us indirectly. His expression is awkward and tense, as is his entire body. I wouldn't be mad at him, but I know full well that I had the same instinctive reaction when I first saw her. First surprise, then curiosity, then an awkward look away as I dealt with what I'd seen, sorry. Hanako looks less panicked than before, but I think the feeling she's giving off now is worse. It's not anger or annoyance, if anything, it's one of apology. You're lucky there, young lady, to have friends that care about you as much as they do. Thank you. If I hadn't spent so much time with Hanako, I wouldn't even have realized that she said anything. Then again, the store owner's mumble was hardly clear either, thanks in part to being directed away from us. Hanako strikes out into the store, giving in wonder at the various items on display. She finds a doll section, and spends lingering minutes studying each and every one. It's a side of Hanako I've only barely been introduced to. I was astonished when Lily said she liked dolls, and even more so to find her collection sitting in her drawer. She looks a little better now that she's distracted and out of the store owner's sight, but I'm still quite put off by the whole experience. I might have my own problems, but I've never had strangers react to me like that before, as if I was something completely alien to them. This is a nice shop. Yeah, it's not what I expected. Do you want to buy something? I didn't bring any money. Well, we can always come again. Now that I know where to find it, that is. We can? Of course. We can come here as often as you'd like. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. I almost forgot where this place was. I don't really think either of us completely believes in what we're saying, but rather we're just repeating what we think we should say. Can we go back to the school now? Sure thing. Let's go. As we leave the bus stop, I see the store owner peek through the curtain at the back of the shop. I'm not really sure what that glance he gives to her says. It feels a bit weird, and the fact that Hanako doesn't see it is both a relief and a bit frustrating. Hanako and I stopped walking once we reached the concrete area between the dormitory buildings. There was barely a word said between us on the way back from the city. Well then, goodbye. Do you want to have some tea or something? How about a game? Hanako shakes her head embarrassedly. I'm tired. Maybe later? I've got homework. She sounds a little depressed. Hanako obviously does want to do more, but I suppose she would have a bit of schoolwork to catch up on. She's missed a few days of the lessons. Ah, homework. Thanks for reminding me. I've got a stack to do as well. I guess I'll see you tomorrow? See you, Hisao. That was a bit more of a positive outcome from last time, where she just dismissively waved at us or something. Before I can say goodbye, Hanako has turned and begun walking towards the entrance to the female dormitory building. I look at the door she disappears through for a bit before going off towards my own dorms. Today was a tiring day. And Act 4 it is, of Scars. The same as it was. Hanako is avoiding us. Trust my own judgment? I listen carefully to what Lily has to say, but I can't bring myself to agree with her. I want to be with Hanako more. I want to be a better friend to her, to support her when she needs support, and to be there when she needs people. She most needs people. I think now is one of those times. The memory of the store owner we met in town together still puts me off. Anyone who takes even the slightest glance at Hanako ends up staring, and to fault them for it would be completely hypocritical given my own reaction. I don't like my own scar either, but at least I can cover it up with something as simple as a shirt. I can't imagine a life where every day would be spent trying to hide myself as much as possible. And on top of that, Hanako doesn't even have people around her that would support her no matter what she looks like. I live away from my parents, but I can still contact and visit them when I wish. I mutter the best course of action in my head and find myself trying to verbally agree to with Lydia as softly and as adverbiently as I can. We make some small talk afterwards, but both of us don't really have much stomach for it in the light of recent events. We say our goodbyes before I hang up. There's at least one thing I could do for Hanako. If I can make a small gesture for her, I can only hope that she allows me to come that little bit closer. How is this going to bridge about then? We can't even skip that, so we're still on normal stuff. After talking to Lily at the end of the school day, I sat at my desk and looked out the window, idly watching students leaving the school building. Usually they left in groups, but even when they're left alone, they'd say goodbye to their friends first. It's completely normal, something that I would have missed completely had it been any other day, because it's so mundane. But it's also something Hanako had never had in the time that I've known her. As I stand outside of Hanako's door for the second time in as many days, the fact doesn't leave my mind. I hold 2 plates in my hand. On each is not exactly the most hearty of meals, but I want to be sure that Hanako is at least feeding herself. It may also be a way to gain a little leverage in getting her to let me in. Lily and I have tried our best to be there for her, ever since she broke down in class. I've did it once, but dear Hanako, such a thing happening to her again, or even something worse, is something I don't want to think about. The door gives a solid series of thuds. Okay, same dialogue but different route. The door gives a solid series of thuds as I knock it, while carefully propping up one plate on my other arm side. I doubt Hanako will open it for me, so all I can really hope to accomplish is to attract her attention. Evening, Hanako. It's just me. I paused a moment to see if she would respond, but the fact that she doesn't isn't very surprising. I have some food for both of us. Can I come in? 4 feels like a very long time. Some muffled voices from the floor below are the only sound to be heard. Then I can hear the sound of bare feet on the floor coming up to the door, and I have to stifle a sigh of relief as I hear the door's lock being worked. When Hanako opens the door, I look at her intently. She looks up momentarily to the plate I left in my left hand. It's a modest curry dish I quickly made from a packet. Her eyes move to the plate in my right hand, which holds the same thing before looking down again. And she shuffles back into her room. I realise I hadn't said a word to her. I glumly follow her in, slightly embarrassed by having been so wrapped up in observing her. And in we are. More than ever, grey and stark atmosphere of Hanako's room feels like a reflection of her personality. Gosh. The voices from outside become completely inaudible, and the silence inside oppressive once I close the door. Walking to the far end of the room, I place the 2 plates on her desk. I'm thankful that she let me in, but as I turn to face her, I can't help having second thoughts about coming to see her. I don't believe Lily was right. Though, looking at Hanako like this, I can only think that giving her space is the last thing we should be doing. I don't want to imagine it, but she may do something very foolish. It's just an instant meal. It should be filling. I take a plate in my hand, offer it to her. She wordlessly takes it and sits on the side of her bed. I take a seat in her chair, and the familiar sound eating rings in the room as we dig in with the forks that we stuck into the rice. The curry itself tastes okay. I wouldn't expect much more from a packet whose brand I don't recognise, so it's not being horrible. So it not being horrible is at least something. Eating takes the edge off the fact that she isn't talking. Neither of us really likes to talk while we're eating, and this reminds me of the lunchtime so often spent together. It's kind of nice, eating together like this. Hanako looks at me quizzically. It's at least a better expression than what she's been wearing this far. We became friends mainly over sharing lunches, so it's nice to go back to those times a bit. She hesitates for a couple of seconds and I find myself grimacing. Did I say something wrong? Eventually she smiles and nods. I would normally be very encouraged by this, but her smile looks strange. I can't quite put my word on why. It looks forced? Everything's the same as before, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. You still got Lily and me to help. Stop saying help you and protect you like she's totally, completely unable to handle herself. And once she gets back, everything will be just like she never left. Hanako nods again, expression remaining exactly the same as before. She feels like a different Hanako from the one I'd first seen when I entered the room, and it's vaguely off-putting. Both of us go back to finishing off our dinners after the short exchange. Despite Hanako looking happier than before, my eyes keep flickering to her as if to reassure myself of this fact. Before long, the last of Hanako's curry is cleared. I finish the last of mine as she puts the empty plate on the desk, and place my own empty plate and used fork on top of hers. I briefly wonder what I should say, desperately wants to avoid another awkward silence or the prospect of leaving her room after such a short time, but Hanako is the one to speak up first. I was wondering, since you're here... She quickly goes to one of her drawers after a minimum of fussing around, pulls out her chessboard. Would you like to play? Aha! This time I can't stifle the sigh of relief that escapes my lips. Play a little bit of chess, eh? I hastily agree, and Hanako promptly busies herself setting up while I get off the chair and take a seat on her bed. Once again, Hanako is willing to let me into her world, with so simple a gesture as a game shared between us. I guess I was just winding myself up for no reason. After the board is laid down on the bed between us, we finish placing our respective pieces on it. Throughout our friendship, we never exchanged that many words. When we're like this, though, I see that perhaps we never really needed to. Just a simple book, or board, or meal between us is enough to bridge that distance. I make the first move just as I've always done. This is the way our friendship was, and this is the way it will probably always be. Something definitely feels different about her, though, and I can't quite grasp what it is. I look at Hanako intently, but I can't work out anything from her expression. As physically close as we may be, it feels like we're further apart than ever. Hanako is a fragile person, though, and I would never want to hurt her. Yeah, try saying that to yourself in the bad ending. That was also the way things always were, and the way things between us will probably always be. Another ending, but it's more pleasant. Still nothing romantic yet. So I suppose a good ending must come from trusting Lily's judgment.